The beauty industry has its royalty, and I'm not talking about people here. I'm talking about ingredients like vitamin C or retinol or hyaluronic acid. And these are actives that are so famous that shoppers can now recite their benefits without hesitation. These actives have dominated ingredients lists and marketing campaigns for quite a long time now, becoming almost, dare I say it, untouchable. But history shows that nothing stays at the top forever. And every so often, a newcomer appears with the potential to knock a giant off its perch. Hydroxytyrosol might just be one of those contenders. It's found in olives, and it's now extracted from the pulp left behind after oil pressing. And it's being studied for antioxidant strength that rivals, and in some tests even surpasses, vitamin C. Which raises the big question, could vitamin C, as skincare royalty, finally be knocked off its perch? And what makes this story even more interesting is the origin of this particular chemical compound. So hydroxytyrosol doesn't come from an exotic rainforest plant or a newly synthesized molecule, but instead it comes from olive waste, a byproduct usually discarded or burned. And now upcycling that waste into a high-value active brings a fresh angle to the ingredient conversation. It's not just about potency and performance, but it's about rethinking what we throw away. So in today's episode here on the podcast, we're exploring whether the days might be numbered for the skincare royalty of old. So settle in to learn more about a chemical compound that might just become the next big thing everyone's talking about. Welcome to Green Beauty Conversations, in which I challenge the beauty industry to become sustainable, champion independent and green beauty, and encourage you to join me in making beauty better. I'm your host, Lorraine Dallmeier. I'm a chartered environmentalist, biologist, and the CEO of award-winning online organic cosmetic formulation school, Formula Botanica. We have tens of thousands of students in over 190 countries around the world who study with us to become organic beauty formulators and entrepreneurs. Visit our website at formulabotanica.com to try our free online formulation course. And if you want to be the first person to know what's happening in green beauty, make sure you subscribe to this podcast in your favorite podcast app. So in today's episode, I'm joined by Charlotte Julien, who's a Formula Botanica graduate and also a consultant who supports indie beauty brands and ingredient innovators in bringing sustainable solutions to market. After founding and running the award-winning Swiss skincare brand éméo for a decade, Charlotte transitioned into consultancy, where she now works with companies like Gaia Tech, who we'll be talking about on the podcast today. So Gaia Tech is pioneering the transformation of European food waste into high-value cosmetic actives. And their flagship ingredient, which is called Phenoliva Active, is derived from upcycled olive pomace and contains exceptionally high levels of hydroxytyrosol, which we're going to talk about on this podcast today. Hi, Charlotte. How are you doing today?
Great. Thank you. Lovely to see you.
Lovely to see you too. Well, let's start with some introductions. Can you please introduce yourself for our listeners?
Yes. So my name is Charlotte Julien, or Julien in the English version, and I'm the founder of éméo, an organic skincare company that I founded back in 2015, that I ran until 2025. And then from the beginning of the year 2025, took all the knowledge that I acquired through the last 10 years and turned it into a consulting business to help skincare founders or established skincare brands and also other companies within the cosmetic industry.
Amazing. And obviously you've studied with Formula Botanica as well, haven't you? I've got to throw that in at the beginning.
Oh, well, of course. Yes. Thanks to Formula Botanica, I created some wonderful products that were really adored by the Swiss community as well as European and international. So it was really a great stepping point for me and allowed me to create some wonderful formulations with amazing organic actives, and my products were also certified through EcoCert.
Amazing. Well, we're going to talk about actives today, actually, because now in your new role as where you're supporting ingredient suppliers and brand founders, you're working with a company called Gaia Tech. So can you tell us a little bit about them?
Yes. So Gaia Tech is actually a spin-off from a university in Zurich, where they also start off with various projects. And the initial project came about creating some ingredients from the byproducts from the olives. And initially it was actually for the food industry. And then they realized the potency of their actives and decided to turn to the cosmetic industry. And that's where they contacted me, because they had a lot of knowledge, of course, in terms of creating this active, but not much knowledge of the actual cosmetic industry, especially the indie brands that they really wanted to, and they want to approach, because they believe that indie, as well as obviously the larger brands, but indie have the ability to be more reactive to new ingredients in the market.
Very exciting. Well, let's talk about this active. What is it? What does it do?
Okay, so it's the one that I struggled the most is actually the name of it. And it's the hydroxytyrosol. It's actually an extract from the olive pomace, they call it, which is obviously the byproduct of when they manufacture olive oil. And they have their own process to actually extract this hydroxytyrosol. And it doesn't use any solvents, and it's their own proprietary manufacturing technique that they use. And the advantage of that is obviously there's not using any chemicals, any other solvents that's problematic, to really keep the also environmental factor. And, obviously if they want to create an active that's upcycled, the idea is not to create more problematic events for the environment. And this hydroxytyrosol, in their final product, it's at a concentration of about 10%. And it's extremely potent. And therefore, when you use it in formulation, you use it between 0.2% and 1% in your formulation, as opposite to other extracts that are often used between, approximately 3 to 4%. And the advantage of that is it's a very effective antioxidant, and according to literature is even more powerful than vitamin C. So from their initial findings in terms of in vitro with human cells comparisons, they've noticed that it has various properties, not just antioxidant, but also has soothing properties, so reducing redness, also helping in terms of skin brightening, stimulating collagen. So it's a very innovative ingredient. They were able to create sort of a synthetic version previously, but now to have this actual ingredient that is really upcycled and environmentally friendly, I think it's a great possibility for indie brands.
Well, let's unpack this a little bit. So It comes from olive pomace.
Yes.
So, Switzerland isn't known for its olive trees. Where do the olives come from, first of all?
Indeed. We're not the olive growers.
No.
So it's initially was from San Marino, but to sort of meet the needs of many brands, that wasn't an organic farm. So they really wanted to find organic certified olives with a full traceability. So they're going to be actually getting their produce from Tuscany, which will then be a fully certified organic farming. So that really opens up. At the moment, it's certified by Cosmos, but not organic Cosmos, but it will be very shortly.
So let's walk through this. So they're harvesting these olives in Tuscany. I picture beautiful olive groves, beautiful Italian scenery. I've been to Tuscany. It's gorgeous.
Yes.
And then it gets shipped to the processing facility in Switzerland.
Yes.
What starts to happen there?
Well, in the facilities it's actually based in Bern, the company, and they basically take the pomace, if you think of it, it's like pulp kind of mixture, and they take it and use their own machinery and lab functioning that allows it to extract from that pomace a liquid that it's a sort of a dark brownish liquid, and it's highly potent and concentrated. And the advantage of that is actually taking that pomace and converting it into an active is better in terms of carbon emissions than actually disposing of the pomace as a bulk. So they've noticed that in terms of the life cycle that it was effective.
Wow, that's really interesting, actually, that they've actually done that analysis to say we found we have less of an impact when we actually process it into a new ingredient. So then you have this sort of brownish liquid. Then what happens?
Well, The actual extract can then be used. It's a water-soluble base. So it's just the actual extract, which is the olive extract, and with citric acid. So there's no other ingredients added. So it's fully water soluble that you can add to your formulation. It can be used for toners. It can be used in terms of obviously emulsions and water-based serums. At the moment, they've only have a water-based active. They are working at the possibility of an oil-based active, but at the moment it's water soluble, and it can be used as long as it's not too high a temperature. It can be used during the process, but preferably as end of process ingredient.
Yeah. And that's fascinating because, of course, you compared it to vitamin C. Let's talk a little bit about that study. Who undertook the study to compare hydroxytyrosol to vitamin C?
There had been studies done previously because the hydroxytyrosol has been used previously as an active, but not extracted the way this active has been in terms of upcycled ingredient. It's been a natural-like creation. So it has been studied in previously, and they also did their own research based in that sense.
Okay. So, I mean, I went to my team when obviously you first contacted us, and I went, who here's heard of hydroxytyrosol? And literally the entire team went, no, we're drawing a blank here. We never heard of this one. So it's been around for a while. How come it hasn't sort of come to the fore before?
I don't know whether it was because it was a more sort of synthetic ingredient, or I haven't got really an idea why, because it's such a good ingredient in terms of formulation. And I sincerely believe that it could be the new Bakuch oil that, obviously that's made a huge bound. I think it's because it's this particular ingredient is still in its infancies, but there are some skincare brands that have started using them. And one that is mainly in terms of olive oil is Oliveda, is a brand that also uses the hydroxytyrosol. But yeah, I still struggle with that.
Very understandable, don't worry.
But yes, the beauty of it is that it does have multifunctions. It's not just an antioxidant. And it's also can be used in terms of hair care, where it helps to support the growth and also in terms of keeping colour if you have, hair that has colour in it.
Now, obviously, I mean, you've compared it to vitamin C, and it sounds like this study that was undertaken did as well. Vitamin C is obviously known for its brightening potency, for its antioxidant effects.
Yes.
It's also highly unstable. How is hydroxytyrosol when you formulate with it?
It's much more stable in terms of the colour, as well as keeping stable on long term in your formulation. So that's the great advantage of it. Of course, it's the stability of the ingredient versus the vitamin C.
So why did Gaia Tech focus on hydroxytyrosol in particular?
Well, initially, it was obviously an active that they looked at for food in terms of an antioxidant for food, they were looking for an alternative. And that's where they sort of focused their first sort of studies. But they are looking into developing and also taking extracts from apples and then grapes. So there's movement in terms of various actives that they could test.
Understood. I mean, is hydroxytyrosol only found in olives, or does it exist in other plants too?
No, it's mainly in olives, not just the pulp, but also in the leaves of the olives.
Interesting. And obviously there must be a lot of waste left when olives have been processed for oil. And I know they go through multiple pressings, but even so, I presume there must be tons and tons of waste to get your hands on.
Exactly. Yes. Tons of waste that can be reused, and that's the beauty of upcycling, is to really reduce as much possible waste. And we talk about hydroxytyrosol, but within the hydroxytyrosol there are other polyphenols that are really effective for and beneficial for your skin.
Exciting. Well, exciting for many formulators. How has the beauty industry received this so far?
Well, there's been a lot of interest with large groups like Givaudan and Evonik in Switzerland that have shown a lot of interest in the potential. But as it's right in its infancy, this is the opportunity for many indie brands to actually get their hands on a new active that could be an interesting, unique selling point and, that has such a great potential. The clinical trials, which is they have tested on an eye contour and in 2 concentrations at 0.2% and 1%. And the results are coming in any day now. I was hoping I'd get the results before the actual recording of the podcast.
We would have got an exclusive.
So yes, we could have had an exclusive. So, keep an eye out because it'll be available anytime soon. But it's very promising. And the good thing is as well, there's no, in their initial findings, it shows no irritation. So yes, a win-win.
You know what I find so interesting about this is the beauty industry has sort of built itself around a few key actives that it talks about all the time, which the consumer is well au fait with now. We're talking about hyaluronic acid, we're talking about vitamin C, we're talking about retinol. And you've got these so-called skin intellectuals. I've talked about this here on the podcast before, people who really feel like they understand the science of these ingredients. But what's interesting is plants contain so many chemical compounds. I mean, just hundreds in each plant. And there will always be ones that could be more potent or could be more interesting. And obviously, bakuchiol suddenly burst onto the market a few years ago because, of course, it was underpinned by 1 or 2 studies. And I understand that, that may not be sufficient data, but they did suggest that it could perform as well as retinol. Do you think hydroxytyrosol has the potential to do the same in terms of vitamin C?
Definitely. I really believe that it can, surpass vitamin C, and especially, like you said, in terms of stability, as it's more stable, and the properties of it in terms of a people want more multi-use products, not just wrinkles or just brightening. If they can have one product that does it all between brightening, reducing inflammation, reducing wrinkles, and having healthy skin. We talk about longevity is the new sort of buzzword at the moment, which I hope isn't a buzzword, but in terms of organic skincare, I think that we always were in terms of the longevity rather than some quick fix. And the idea is to have healthy skin and a healthy environment. And if we can use an upcycled ingredient that's stable and that has multi-use, I think it's a win-win situation. And the fact that it could be used also in hair care could mean you could develop a full range of products with one active.
It's fascinating. I completely agree with the upcycling. I think that is so incredibly important, and it's such an untapped resource in the beauty industry. And I can see the industry talking about it more and more, but we haven't embraced it yet at the level we probably should, because there's just so much waste out there. And, as I think the expression is, one person's trash is another person's treasure. And it very much comes to fruition here as well. So you talked about organic certification earlier. How is that traceability then maintained throughout the whole supply chain?
Well, basically that's where they're going to be moving the site San Marino to Tuscany, where they can have really the full traceability right back to the olive groves where it was grown, to where they process the facilities to make it into the olive oil, and then they have direct contacts with the actual producers. It is full traceability. That's the important side of thing, is that to get the Cosmos, went through the whole Cosmos organic certification for my own brand. So I know how stringent they are. Yes, rigorous. And that, you need all the supporting documents, and they, Gaia Tech really want to, have that rigor and to really make sure that their products are.
What sort of minimum order quantities does Gaia Tech sell this particular extract in? What's it called, the extract itself? I know we're talking about the chemical compound in it, but what's the name of the extract? Phenolvia
Active. Okay. And the very minimum, that's one of the main things that I spoke to them initially when I started working. And I said, well, if you're going to be working with indie beauty brands, it needs to be available in small quantities. So they can have samples sent to you, sort of 1 millimeter sample for you to test a little bit. But then it's as low as 100 mils up to whatever size quantity you want. So
oh, wow.
It could seem expensive when you first look at their pricing, but because you only use a small amount, in terms of costing, it's actually quite reasonable.
So it's very potent when you use it in small amounts. So talk to me about what sort of brand concept you think would fit hydroxytyrosol.
Well, obviously, I think if you're wanting to do a little bit like I said, if you wanted to create something that was simple, multi-use product, for busy mums, for example, that haven't got time to first put a product for anti-wrinkle, then something for against, to brighten their skin, and someone that's in the office, because it also has the advantage of being, reducing the oxidative stress that's caused by screens, or someone that wants to focus on more Mediterranean ingredients, for example, where their unique seller point is to do with olives or even other Mediterranean ingredients. I think there's quite a lot of variety that can be possible, or just, really focusing on an antioxidant range.
Yeah, well, maybe this is getting the creative juices of our listeners going, because I know many of the people listening want to start beauty brands. So who knows what will come out of this. Do you think, based on your experience also, do you think indie brands today are more willing to experiment with novel actives like this?
Oh, definitely. And I think that's the beauty of being an indie brand, is that we can be creative. And if you can have an active as well that has got a low MOQ, it really gives the opportunity to have even just one of the products that has the active, or the whole range. Before, if you had to buy, a kilo of an active, either you had waste, or you felt that you had to maximize that and use it across all of your products, because, you didn't want to waste a good active. And in terms of obviously costing, in terms of pricing. So I do think it opens up a huge realms of possibilities.
Yeah. Oh, that's exciting. What the next indie brands might do with hydroxytyrosol, particularly if they want to put out that message of we rival vitamin C, which is, of course, how all the bakuchiol-based brands and products sort of took off. As a graduate of Formula Botanica, how do you feel now about guiding ingredient suppliers on how to work with indie formulators?
Well, I think it's a great challenge. I think it's good fun, because what I noticed from working with Gaia Tech and other companies that create these wonderful actives is that they're amazing engineers, and they know everything about how to do the extract and all the scientific words and compounds. But then in terms of the challenges a formulator has, that's where it becomes more complicated, because they're like, okay, well, what do they want? What would an indie brand want? We've got this. Do they want 2 kilos of it? So that's where I feel that it's a very good opportunity for me, is to really say, okay, well, these are the needs of the indie brands and these are your needs. How can I help meet so that both find an effective solution? So, and obviously the networking that we have to do when we set up a brand, where we obviously, thanks to Formula Botanica, we often have a list of different suppliers and different ingredient suppliers. So we have to do a lot of networking. And when these new companies set up, they don't necessarily have the networking that I acquired over 10 years of having my own brand.
It's interesting, because it shows you that for any Formula Botanica graduates listening, yes, you can start a brand, but there are so many other opportunities in the market as well, as Charlotte is showing us right here. So what's next for Gaia Tech in terms of their ingredients?
Well, apparently they're launching a very brand new ingredient at the Paris Cosmetic 360. I think it's 15th of October or 13th to 15th of October. So I don't know exactly which ingredient's going to be, but anyway, they're definitely going to continue their quest in terms of their mission of creating, as clean possible upcycled ingredients. Very excited to see what new actives they're going to come out.
Indeed. Well, we will keep an eye on that. And this episode, I think, will come out after that. So hopefully the news will be on the market by that time. And what's next for you with your consultancy?
I'm going to continue working with various brands and founders and help them, because, the journey as a beauty brand, as much as, okay, we have the support, for example, Formula Botanica in terms of the blogs, and it can be a little bit lonely. And the idea is that I could be that external resource that when we have our own skincare brand, it becomes our baby, and we're not necessarily as objective as we should be. And the idea is that sometimes to have an exterior neutral, being Swiss as well, but anyway, someone from the outside to look in and say, okay, have you thought of this aspect or that aspect, and it's just, or maybe just refining a little bit the branding, or also helping, again, like I said, in terms of networking, is I have established great relationships with suppliers, with packaging suppliers, and all those things that maybe it can help someone get there a little bit quicker and maybe make a little bit less mistakes, because we all make mistakes. They'll probably make some different mistakes to the ones I made, but if I can help help founders avoid certain mistakes. So that's the plan, and to help others become successful brand founders.
Sounds very fulfilling. And where can people get in touch with you?
Well, they can get in touch through my website, which is éméo.swiss, EMEO.swiss, SWISS. And I'm happy to help. The website is in French. However, I do speak English, obviously, and French. So
yes, and Google Translate is very helpful in those circumstances. And where can people find out more about Gaia Tech and potentially go and buy hydroxytyrosol?
Well, they have their own website, which is gaiatech.ch, and they can purchase directly. And if they use the code Botanica, they can get €10 off their first order. So that could be an interesting one.
We will include that in the show notes. So the code was Botanica, right?
Yes, Botanica.
Perfect. Okay, we will put that in the show notes. Go and check out all the links. Thank you so much for joining me today, Charlotte. It's been really lovely chatting to you.
My pleasure.
I would love to hear your thoughts on this episode. How important is upcycling to you in your cosmetics? Leave us a comment on our social channels, as both the Formula Botanica team and I love hearing from you. And if you want to hear some more episodes about the topics we discussed today, please do delve back into the podcast archives. There are just hundreds of episodes for you to scroll through. And some great examples include episode 199, in which I interviewed Thomas Kerfoot of O&3 and Inky Ingredients on the way that they're also using waste to upcycle so many different cosmetic ingredients. Or check out episode 201, in which I spoke to Terence Chung of Frou Cosmetics on the way that they've created an entire range of beauty products around upcycled ingredients. There is a wealth of information in our old episodes, and I do encourage you to go back and listen to them. Thank you for joining Charlotte and I for this latest episode of Green Beauty Conversations. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please do leave us a 5-star review so that other people can enjoy these conversations too. Make sure you subscribe to the podcast on Apple Podcasts or Spotify or whatever your favorite podcast app is, and stay tuned for the next episode. Follow Formula Botanica at Formula Botanica on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, TikTok, Pinterest, LinkedIn. We are everywhere. And come and give me a follow at Lorraine Dallmeier on Instagram and LinkedIn. Visit our website at formulabotanica.com and sign up for our free online formulation course today.